The harvest of the sun. Well, we are here in order to study, you to listen to me, and I to speak to you. Certainly, knowing how to listen is something very difficult. It is easier to know how to speak. Commonly, when we are listening, there is within us a translator, the I, the ego, the myself, which translates everything according to its own concepts, ideas, opinions, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, knowing how to listen is not something easy. It is necessary to understand that within ourselves there is something more than just the physical body. We have a body of flesh and bones, this is obvious, and everyone can accept that fact. But only a few can understand that we also have a psychology that is possible to modify. We must understand this psychology if we truly want transformation. Those who accept the existence of their own psychology obviously begin to self-observe. When someone self-observes, it is a sign that they are trying to achieve self-transformation, and we do need self-transformation. Life as it is in reality is not very attractive. To be born, to grow old, and to die becomes something very boring. To work in order to exist, and to exist in a miserable form is not worthwhile. Not only those who have money live miserably, but also those who do not. There are two ways of rolling in the mud. Some roll in the mud of misery, others in the mud of wealth, and all of this is disheartening. Thus, to live in that manner, to exist without a reason, without knowing why or for what purpose, is something that has no real importance. What are we? What is the reason for our existence? What do we live for? Each one of us is merely a machine that transforms energies. The energies of the 7 planets, the planetary energies of our solar system, cannot pass directly into the Earth because our planet is different. It is a world governed by 48 laws, completely different from the other worlds of our solar system. Seen from this perspective, it is obvious that the solar system needs channels to allow cosmic energy to pass into this planetary organism. But it is not enough for the energy merely to pass through. It must also be transformed within those channels. Only transformed and adapted energy can be useful to the planet Earth. Let us take into account that the Earth is a living organism that needs to exist and therefore needs cosmic energies. Just as we need energy to live, the Earth also needs energy in order to exist. However, the energies that sustain the Earth come from the other planets of the solar system. I repeat, because our planet is different, the energy must be transformed in order to nourish it. And this transformation would not be possible if there were no channels through which the energy could pass. Fortunately, these channels do exist. They were made by the sun and consist of organic life, which was established by the Logos as a thin skin over the surface of the Earth. Thus, the thin skin of organic life, vegetable, animal, and human, is necessary to allow energy to be transformed and to pass into the interior of the Earth. Only in this way can the Earth exist as a living organism. Otherwise, it could not exist. We human beings are merely simple machines through which cosmic energy must pass. Each one of us receives certain charges of electricity and magnetism that are unconsciously transformed and automatically retransmitted to the interior of the Earth. This is the reason for our existence. And how bitter it is to realize that we exist merely so that the Earth may live and revolve around the sun. We feel so important, when in reality we are nothing more than small energy-transforming machines. Our existence has only one purpose: to allow this planet to exist. Thus we live our small lives, unhappy days, working in order to eat, existing solely because of nature's economy. Nature does not care about our ideas or beliefs. All she wants is the energetic food that must pass through our bodies. That is all. And how do we live? Shouting at home or in the streets, suffering under the authority of a tyrant in the factory or the office, paying taxes to exist as citizens, paying rent, and so on. All of this simply so that the planet may exist, may be part of the chain of worlds, may remain alive. So many suffering mothers, so many young people without enough money to live, some with not even milk to feed their babies, so many elderly people burdened with their life experiences, so many children just beginning to receive blows, and all of this so that the planet may exist. This is harsh, cruel, I would say, pitiless. That is what we are, and nothing more. If at least we were human beings, we would be something, but we are not even that. We are poor intellectual animals, carrying the sadness of our existence. That is what we are. This may seem very pessimistic. We remember parties and believe that life has happy moments, but this is only because we do not know what happiness truly is. We confuse moments of pleasure with authentic happiness, and obviously we walk upon an erroneous path. And what remains after pleasure? Only disillusion and deception. How many times do a man and a woman who believe they are in love get married, only to later realize they were merely fascinated? They thought it was love, but it was not. Love is confused with passion. Once animal passion is satisfied, what remains is loathing, satiety, and deception. From that moment on, everything becomes routine. They speak only of bank accounts, rent, clothes that need to be washed, breakfast that must be prepared on time to go to work. Occasionally, they take a walk to escape boredom or attend a party that ends in drunkenness. And in that way, life passes until the moment when we become old. Once we are elderly, we feel like veterans. We enjoy being called grandpa by our grandchildren and telling tales of our sad experiences, of which we feel very proud. This is normal in life. In my time, the president did this and that, etc. We narrate our fights, the battles in which we participated, sometimes even showing our war wounds, which make us feel proud, just sadness. The usual conversations follow. Our brother has died, our cousin lost his fortune, or those times were better, and so on. And in the end, death comes, an unhappy life for which we have worked and suffered so much. Fortunately, within the Logos, there exists something else. The Sun is compassionate. It is true that it uses humanity as simple machines that help its creation, nature, but it is also true that it wants to create something higher. The Sun does not create nature nor organic life on a planet that revolves around it merely for diversion, without a logical reason. It would not be logical to have created this planet for nothing. To create something without a purpose would be the absurd of all absurdities. I think that even you would not do such a thing. You would not invent something, suffer for it, dedicate your life to it, and later destroy it. I believe this creation has an objective. The Sun has deposited within the sexual glands the seed needed to create man. Those seeds can be developed if we cooperate with the Sun. Then we would no longer be mere talking machines as we are now. We would transform ourselves into real men, into kings of creation. To say that this humanity is composed of men is an exaggeration. I understand that man is the Lord, the King, as the Bible says, the King of creation, made to govern the animal and vegetable kingdoms, to govern the ocean, the air, and the fire. If one is not a king, then one is not a man. The Bible states that man is the king of creation. Therefore, are we kings or not? If we are victims of circumstances, if an earthquake kills 7,000 people, as happened in Europe on the 7th of this month, then what are we? Victims of circumstances. Where are the men? If the elements can destroy us just as easily as we destroy an anthill with our foot, then where are the human qualities we claim to possess? Truly, even if we presume we are men, in reality we are nothing more than simple intellectual animals, condemned to live in sadness. Yet there are seeds within our glands, seeds capable of transforming us into men. These seeds can germinate if we cooperate with the sun and its solar ideas. The sun created this race not only to serve the economy of nature, but also with the clear intention of obtaining a harvest of solar men. In the time of Prophet Abraham, the sun obtained a beautiful harvest of solar men. In the first 8 centuries of Christianity, another small harvest was gathered. In the Middle Ages, a few more were reaped, and now the sun is making its final effort. However, because this perverse humanity of the 20th century has become an enemy of the solar ideas, terribly materialistic, mechanical, and 100% lunar, the sun is now making a last attempt to obtain a small harvest of solar men. Once the harvest is complete, it will destroy the race because it will no longer be useful for its experiment. What is this race useful for now? There is no reason for its existence. It is not useful to the experiment. It is composed of people who have no interest in solar ideas, people who think only of bank accounts, new cars, Hollywood actresses, passionate sexual pleasures, drugs, and so on. Obviously, such people are not useful to the sun's experiment. They must be destroyed, and that is what the sun will do, destroy them and create a new race on new continents that will emerge from the depths of the ocean. Very soon, the present continents will lie at the bottom of the seas. Government palaces, municipal buildings, and luxurious mansions will become the lairs of seals and fish. This is the reality. New lands will rise from the oceans, and upon them will live new people, a special and different race, capable of being useful to the solar experiment. And in that way, life passes until the moment when we become old. Once we are elderly, we feel like veterans. We enjoy being called grandpa by our grandchildren and telling tales of our sad experiences, of which we feel very proud. This is normal in life. In my time, the president did this and that, etc. We narrate our fights, the battles in which we participated, sometimes even showing our war wounds, which make us feel proud, just sadness. The usual conversations follow. Our brother has died, or our cousin lost his fortune, or those times were better, and so on. And in the end, death comes. An unhappy life, for which we have worked and suffered so much. Fortunately, within the Logos there exists something else. The sun is compassionate. It is true that it uses humanity as simple machines that help its creation, nature, but it is also true that it wants to create something higher. The sun does not create nature, nor organic life on a planet that revolves around it merely for diversion, without a logical reason. It would not be logical to have created this planet for nothing. To create something without a purpose would be the absurd of all absurdities. I think that even you would not do such a thing. You would not invent something, suffer for it, dedicate your life to it, and later destroy it. I believe this creation has an objective. The sun charges a price for the creation of the thin skin of organic life upon the face of the earth. It wants something in return. It has an interest and a reason. It wants to obtain a harvest of solar men and women. The idea is not bad, but it is difficult. It's an experiment, frightful to be sure, and extremely hard, within the test tube of nature. That is what it wants, to create solar men. Diogenes and his lamp come to my mind at this moment. One day he walked through the streets of Athens with a lamp in his hand, trying to find a man, and he could not find one. He visited houses, rooms, corridors, and the courtyards of the wise. "What are you looking for, Diogenes?" they asked him. "A man," he replied. "But the streets and public forums are full of men." "Those are not men," he answered. "They are beasts. They eat, sleep, and live as beasts." He visited the homes of scientists and artists, and everywhere he repeated the same thing. Obviously, he was making more and more enemies as he went from house to house. Everyone felt offended by Diogenes, but he had a reason. He did not find a single man. Many wanted to believe that he had found one somewhere. The followers of Marat thought he had found one in a cave and that it was Marat. Absurd. The truth is that he did not find any. If Marat was a man, good for him, but to find a real man is truly difficult. Diogenes lived in a barrel. There he ate and slept. He didn't even own a house. Before he died, Diogenes was visited by Alexander the Great, the man who had placed Europe and Asia under his rule. Diogenes even expelled him. A simple man living in a barrel dismissed Alexander the Great. That is not something everyone can do, is it? Authentic men, in the fullest sense of the word, are very difficult to find. Fortunately, the sun has deposited within the sexual glands the seed needed to create man. Those seeds can develop if we cooperate with the sun. Then we would no longer be mere talking machines as we are now. We would transform ourselves into real men, into kings of creation. To say that this humanity is composed of men is an exaggeration. I understand that man is the Lord, the King, as the Bible says, the King of creation, made to govern the animal and vegetable kingdoms, to govern the ocean, the air, and the fire. If one is not a king, then one is not a man. The Bible states that man is the king of creation. Therefore, are we kings or not? If we are victims of circumstances, if an earthquake kills 7,000 people, as happened in Europe on the 7th of this month, then what are we? Victims of circumstance? Where are the men? If the elements can destroy us just as easily as we destroy an anthill with our foot, then where are the human qualities we claim to possess? Truly, even if we presume we are men, in reality, we are nothing more than simple intellectual animals, condemned to live in sadness. Yet there are seeds within our glands, seeds capable of transforming us into men. These seeds can germinate if we cooperate with the sun and its solar ideas. The sun created this race not only to serve the economy of nature, but also with the clear intention of obtaining a harvest of solar men. In the time of the prophet Abraham, the sun obtained a beautiful harvest of solar men. In the first 8 centuries of Christianity, another small harvest was gathered. In the Middle Ages, a few more were reaped, and now the sun is making his last effort. But because this perverse humanity of the 20th century has become an enemy of the solar ideas, terribly materialistic, mechanical, and 100% lunar, the sun is now making a last attempt to obtain a small harvest of solar men. Once the harvest is complete, it will destroy the race, because it will no longer be useful for its experiment. What is this race useful for now? There is no reason for its existence. It is not useful to the experiment. It is composed of people who have no interest in solar ideas, people who think only of bank accounts, new cars, Hollywood actresses, passionate sexual pleasures, drugs, and so on. Obviously, such people are not useful to the sun's experiment. They must be destroyed, and that is what the sun will do, destroy them, and create a new race on new continents that will emerge from the depths of the ocean. Very soon, the present continents will lie at the bottom of the seas. Government palaces, municipal buildings, and luxurious mansions will become the lairs of seals and fish. This is the reality. New lands will rise from the oceans, and upon them will live new people, a special and different race capable of being useful to the solar experiment. We believe in the end of the world, in times when people say, "Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we will die." In times when people are concerned only with their bank accounts, fashion, gossip, drugs, or lewdness. Therefore, I speak of all this with the intention of inviting you to reflect. Is the germination of the solar seeds possible? Yes. They exist to enable man to be born within ourselves, in the same way that the butterfly is born within the chrysalis. But first of all, the availability of the man must exist. If this availability does not exist, man cannot be born within us. The seeds are there, but they can be lost, and this is normal, for they are seeds of very difficult germination. We need to develop these seeds, and we can do so if we cooperate with the sun. How the solar man is formed. When people think of sex, they remember only their vices, their lewdness, their filthy fornications and abominable adulteries. Let us observe how the positive and negative poles within the chalice of a flower are united in order to create. Let us observe the species that live and breathe beneath the rays of the sun. For example, swans with their beautiful plumage speak to us of love. The swan nourishes itself on love. When one of the pair dies, the other dies of sadness. There exists an order of the swans in Europe and the United States. The principal purpose of that order is the study of love. Obviously, love flows within consciousness. It is a function of the being. It is a cosmic and transcendental energy. Love exists when there is affinity of thought, affinity of feeling, and identical mental concerns. The kiss itself is the mystical communication of two souls eager to express in a sensible form what they are inwardly experiencing. The sexual act is the crystallization of love in the psychic physiological realism of our nature. Let us observe an elderly person who falls in love. He rejuvenates. All his glands function more efficiently, and the energies that flow through his consciousness revitalize those small laboratories called the endocrine glands. These glands then produce a greater flow, more power, and larger quantities of hormones. These hormones invade the bloodstream, and the process of reconstruction and cellular revitalization begins. It is worthwhile to reflect deeply upon love itself, because sex and love are intimately connected. I repeat, the sexual act is the crystallization of love in the psychic physiological realism of our nature. How great love is! Only great souls know how to love and are capable of doing so. We must not confuse love with passion. Therefore, thanks to love, to sex, to that extraordinary force that flows in everything, in what has existed and in what will exist, creatures are able to reproduce themselves in a constant form. Thus, flowers and fruits can exist upon the face of the earth. Therefore, to look upon sex with disgust, to believe it to be a taboo, a sin, or something to be ashamed of, is, frankly, blasphemy. It is like spitting within the sanctuary of the third logos. It is necessary to understand that we must work with the marvelous power of sex. If, through the sexual forces of the third logos, all of nature exists, if, thanks to the sexual force, we ourselves exist, then it is indispensable to understand what this force is so as not to profane it. We must know how to use it in order to transmute ourselves radically. Many times we have been given the key to transmutation, the connection of the lingam and the yoni, without ejaculation of the ens seminis, because within the ens seminis exists the ens virtutis of the fohat. That is the key. That is the secretum secretorum of transmutation. I do not explain this in vulgar words, because sex itself is sacred, and its key must be contemplated with rectitude. If you understand it, practice it, because it is fundamental. When one transmutes the sacred sperm into energy, one can achieve radical transformation. The wise alchemists of the Middle Ages spoke of the mercury of the secret philosophy, which is nothing other than the metallic soul of the sacred sperm. When the sperm, the exiohehari, is transmuted, when we do not commit the crime of spilling the glass of Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great god Ibis of Thoth, mercury is produced. The mercury of the wise, which is the creative energy that ascends to the brain. However, this mercury must pass through 3 very precise stages before it can be useful, and this is well known by the alchemists. It is indispensable to know how to prepare the mercury. In the beginning, the mercurial waters are black as coal, putrid and impure. Many alchemists wasted their lives because they never whitened the waters of their existence, and this is because they did not know how to refine the sacrament of the Church of Rome. It is necessary to understand this sacrament. If you read the word Roma in reverse, what does it say? Amor, love. By reversing the syllables, Roma becomes amor. The sacrament of the Church of Love has been profaned by many neophytes. They work crudely, brutally, passionately in the forge of the Cyclops. They do not refine their labor, and therefore the waters remain black. When the work begins to be refined, those waters become white, ineffable. Then we earn the right to wear the white tunic of Thoth, the tunic of chastity. Much later, when the waters turn yellow, they may be fecundated by sulfur. Sulfur is fire, the fire contained within our creative organs. When this fire mixes with mercury, with the sexual energy, it rises victoriously through the ganglionic spinal cords to the brain. The ascension of the sacred fire is extraordinary. The first center to awaken is that of the Church of the Coccyx, or the Church of Ephesus, which grants power over the element of earth. The second center awakens at the level of the prostate and grants power over the stormy waters of the oceans. The third center awakens at the level of the navel and grants power over fire. One can even activate the volcanoes of the earth. The fourth center awakens at the level of the heart and grants the power to enter and leave the physical body voluntarily, or to place it into the jinn state, power over the element of air. The fifth center awakens in the creative larynx and allows us to speak in synthesis and to hear the symphonies of the cosmos. The sixth center awakens between the eyebrows and grants divine clairvoyance, the faculty to perceive the superior worlds. The seventh center awakens in the pineal gland and grants the diamond eye, the faculty to see throughout all regions of infinite space. Mercury mixed with sulfur opens all of these faculties. When mercury unites with sulfur, with fire, it becomes red as purple. Unfortunately, I repeat, many remain stagnant because they do not refine the sacrament of the Church of Rome. The remaining sulfur, mercury, and even the sublimated salt that ascends mixed with them, when crystallized within our cells and within our sympathetic nervous system, takes on the marvelous and extraordinary form of the astral body. This body crystallizes within our organism, within the laboratory of the body. One knows that one possesses an astral body when one can work with it, when one can use it as naturally as the hands or the feet. With the astral body, we can visit other planets of the solar system. With the astral body, we can come into contact with the 30 aeons that emanated at the dawn of creation. With the astral body, we can commune with deions, archangels, and thrones that exist throughout the universe. With the astral body, we can travel to all the worlds of the galaxy, even to Sirius, the central capital around which the great Milky Way revolves. Yes, it is forbidden to go beyond the central sun, Sirius. I want you to know that Sirius is the fundamental center of our galaxy. All the constellations of the Milky Way, all solar systems, including the one in which we live, rotate around Sirius. It is the gravitational center of all these worlds. For this reason, the initiate, one who possesses an astral body, is permitted to travel as far as Sirius. To go beyond Sirius is forbidden, because beyond it exist other galaxies governed by laws we do not understand. I myself, with my sidereal vehicle, with the Eidolon, as we say, in high magic, have attempted to go beyond Sirius. I was returned, because it is forbidden to pass beyond the central sun, Sirius. I know that there are galaxies far beyond, galaxies governed by laws incomprehensible to us. Even wise men such as Einstein would be rendered completely ignorant of physics and mathematics if taken to live in a galaxy of antimatter, where electrical charges are inverted. How could we understand a star composed of antimatter with inverted charges? It is impossible. Such realities do not exist in our physics textbooks.
Now let us reflect upon what it means to go beyond Sirius, to confront laws that we do not know, that we have not studied within our galaxy. We would be practically defenseless. We would be like a piece of wood tossed upon stormy seas. Even possessing an astral body, we would still be nothing more than a miserable fragment of driftwood. Such is the infinite. How could we communicate with beings who possess bodies of antimatter, with inverted charges, with concepts belonging to dimensions unknown to us? Impossible. We would understand nothing. Therefore, it is worthwhile to possess an astral body. It is worthwhile to know other regions of space. But with that body, we could never go beyond Sirius. Once that body has been created, it is also indispensable to form the mental body if we truly wish to be men with an individual mind. Today, we do not possess an individual mind. We possess many minds. If we consider that within us exists the ego, the myself of experimental psychology, and that it exists in a pluralized form, it is obvious that each of those elements has its own mind. Within ourselves there are many minds, and each has its own ideas and criteria. The eye of anger has its own justifications, its own logic with which it argues and defends itself. It could easily defend itself before a court, using astonishing intelligence, and say, "I was right. I killed that man because he committed such and such errors." The eye of lewdness also has its own logic. It could present itself before superior courts, armed with psychological texts, and defend itself eloquently. It would argue that lust is a natural function of the human being, that everything that exists must develop sexually, that what I did belongs to the erotic function, and that lewdness is natural because eros exists within us. It could even give a physiological lecture, drawing diagrams of eros on a blackboard, explaining the functions of ovaries and testicles, and astonishing everyone. Each one of the I's that we carry within has its own logic, its own mind, its own reasoning. What is more interesting is that these minds argue among themselves. They clash continuously. Thus, what are we? We are a legion. We possess many minds, and this is evident to anyone who observes himself. We need to create an individual mind, but this would be impossible if we did not first transmute our sacred sperm into energy. When the transmutation of mercury is accomplished, it is with that mercury of the wise that we can crystallize within ourselves, organize, and create the individual mind. When someone possesses an individual mental body, he can apprehend, capture, and assimilate all the science of the universe. He can use the mental vehicle to travel through sacred space. With the individual mind, it is possible to penetrate Devachan, the superior mental region of the cosmos and of nature. The individual mind is splendid, marvelous. People are victims of circumstances. People are moved by circumstances. They live subject to the law of accidents. We see this daily. One cannot truly learn to direct the circumstances of life unless one has first created the body of conscious will. When that body is formed, one ceases to be a victim of circumstances. One can intentionally direct events. One becomes owner and lord. This body can be formed only with the mercury of the wise, the result of the transformation, the transmutation of creative energy. Once endowed with the astral, mental, and causal bodies, and possessing a well-organized physical body, we can receive our psychic and spiritual principles and become real men, solar men. The causal body is the final vehicle to be created. I would say that the causal man or woman is the authentic man. In the world of natural causes, we find the causal man. There we see him working for humanity. The causal men are the authentic bodhisattvas in the most transcendental sense of the word, bodhisattvas who work under the direction of the Father who is in secret. Each one obeys his Father, for there are as many fathers in heaven as there are men on earth. Each one of us has his own Father who is in secret. The causal man moves under the guidance of the Father and lives in the world of natural causes. He is the real man. The causal man, the true man, the man in the fullest sense of the word, dwells in the world of natural causes, in the region where the symphonies of the cosmos are heard. There one can listen to the melodies of universal life. It is also in that region that karma exists. There the lords of the law work. The causal man can absorb his astral and mental vehicles and live consciously in that region. From there he projects himself into the regions of the cosmic mind and its profundities, or into the astral world to appear in the physical plane. In the name of truth, I must say that in order to be here with you, speaking to you, I must project myself from the causal world, because my center of gravity is established in the world of natural causes. From there, I project myself into the mental world, then into the astral, and finally, making great effort, I descend into the physical dimension to speak with you. I am speaking with you through concentration because my center of gravity is in the causal world. I am a man of the causal world, and if I say something, if I explain something, it is because I have received an order. I have been commanded to give you this message, and I do so with pleasure and the sincere desire that you may walk the path of the revolution of the consciousness, the spiritual, total, and divine revolution. I want you to understand that what truly matters is man, and that the sun wants to create men. The sun longs for a harvest of solar men and is working intensely at this moment to obtain it. When a race loses interest in solar ideas, the sun also loses interest in that race and destroys it. At this time, the sun wishes to destroy this race because it is no longer useful for its experiments. Yet, before doing so, it is making a supreme effort to reap, even with great difficulty, a harvest, even a small one, of solar men. If you listen to our call, if within you the availability of the man is created, the sun will be able to absorb you as solar men. But your cooperation is necessary. Only in that way can you be transformed into solar men. It is urgent, above all else, that you learn how to transmute. The solar man can be created only with solar energy, and that energy is contained in the raw mercury of the wise, in the raw mineral. That element is the exioheri, the sacred sperm. Those who commit the crime of extracting it from their organism through passionate reasoning definitively submerge themselves into the infernal worlds towards their final disintegration. For the seeds of man to develop within the organism, they must be touched by the rays and emanations that descend from the sacred absolute sun. Without those emanations, the seeds remain unfecunded, degenerate, and fall frightfully into involution until the second death is fulfilled. Inverential peace. Samael Aun Weor.